Hi guys, Joe here. Got Dan on again tonight, and we are going to discuss the Rosicrucions. Is that how you pronounce it, Dan?
The
Rosicrucians.
Rosicrucions, yeah, yeah. The
Rosicrucians.
Rose and the Cross.
Yeah, yeah. So I've only just started getting into this, and I've just learned about John Dee, and I think I mentioned him in my video today. And the connection between John Dee and the transhuman agenda. Is that right? Does he have any connection
Yeah,
to that? Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So he started the first New World Order.
Right, okay. Right, I'm gonna leave Dan to it tonight, I think, because I feel I'm watching The Walking Dead. And I feel like a member of The Walking Dead tonight. I'm really tired. So we were due to do this Zoom last night, but for one reason or another, it never got done. So we're doing it tonight on the day of the big energy harvest that's happened. Um, so yeah, what was it you sent me today about the 666? Let me get it up.
yeah, it's about the actual coronation date from the Queen Elizabeth's dead is 6 months, 6 days and something. All bigged up to
So
666.
it's 6 months later. So
Yeah,
Queen Elizabeth's funeral was September the 19th. 6 months later was March the 19th. 6 weeks later was April the 30th. 6 days later was May the 6th. The maths add up, 666. And
yeah,
anyone who still believes in coincidence, you need to give your head a shake.
yeah.
Especially with the stuff that I'm putting out at the moment, the stuff that I'm learning. And, there are no such things as coincidence. The
No,
world's a stage. And everything happens for a reason, and everything happens with the numbers. So they use the numbers, astrology. What else do they use? Numbers,
numerology,
astrology, numerology,
alchemy,
solstices,
yeah,
yeah,
eclipses.
eclipses. So hence why we had today the coronation, because of course it's the eclipse. So anyway, Dan, just far away, and if I start to wake up throughout this, so I
Yeah.
don't start gnawing on my cat.
So we'll just talk about obviously the link that we're going to go to is obviously the coronation and what's happened today with the solar eclipse and going back towards the Queen Elizabeth's coronation, the Queen Elizabeth I, which brings us into what modern day society is. So King Charles is now bringing in the next New World Order, their next agenda, which is all the next part of their plan. So
Well,
we've been living. Well,
sorry, just quickly, I don't know if you ever saw my video, because I don't think we were chatting at this point, but someone sent me a video of the Queen before she popped her clogs. She was doing this ritual, and I can't remember which video it was, and she pressed a button and the DNA strands went up to the tree of life, but there were 3 strands rather than 2 strands.
two, yeah.
Yeah, so I basically I deduced that they were actually saying, because it was going to the tree of life, they were highlighting that gene editing had occurred. Yeah. They've added an extra strand, and they were just basically announcing it on that when she did whatever she was doing. And also in that video, I highlighted our parents each had 72,000 strands, which equated to 144,000.
44,000.
Yeah. Obviously, with the extra strand, the DNA now adds up to not 144,000.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to pop that in there with, and I can't remember what you said, which triggered me to say what I just said.
Yeah. So we'll start off when the actual Rosicrucian actually started, because there's a lot of umming and ahhing, because the guy who created it was a German monk called Christian Rosicrucius, which his surname in English means Rosicruss. And again, numerology, he died at 106 years old. And it went till they discovered his tomb in 1604, where they found all his manuscripts, which obviously lit in a candle burning lamp, forever burning lamp, which is what they signify. You'll see John Dee holding a lamp, looking like Merlin, this everlasting lamp, which is one of their big symbolisms.
Just explain to the audience who John Dee is?
Yeah, so people know John Dee as a he was the Queen Elizabeth's advisor, so they say, but it's a lot deeper. He actually was the one who put Queen Elizabeth I in charge, and he was the highest of the hierarchy of the Rosicrucians. He was a massive alchemist. He was a trained assassin. So before you had your Mossads and your ninjas, assassins, and stuff like that, he was trained assassin.
He
And
was
I'll go back
original
to
007, wasn't he?
yeah, he was a secret service. He was Queen Elizabeth's secret services, so he was the one who propagated the whole thing against the Kaffirs and the original Catholics that wiped them out. Which I'll go a bit into. Obviously, King James, who obviously rewrote the Bible. It's all linked to all this, which we're going to be talking about. So yeah, obviously the Rosicrucians, obviously that's what they started the movement, and again, it means rose on the cross, which is obviously your Christian cross with a rose. People say they weren't bad or evil. They were an in between. They were very into the mysticism, very much like with the Gnostics. They believed in Sophia. If you look at the Bible, the Rosicrucian Bible, it's very similar to the Gnostic Bible. They've got the whole planes where you've got your lower aeons and your higher aeons, obviously your Hyperborea and your lower, which is electricity. So they did the whole stuff exactly the same. They believed in the demiurge, the Rosicrucians, and again, the church was very against the mysticism or occult, which you've already covered. The cult means hidden knowledge, not darkness or evil or anything. It's literally just knowledge that us peasants, I call us, don't get access to. Like you've got your
Gioms.
So they still teach all these in places like Cambridge, Yale, Oxford, Harvard, your other esoteric schools or your private schools. They teach them the real stuff, not the stuff we get taught and programmed with. And also I'll go into how they've literally rewrote history. It was like their big reset in the 1600s.
Okay.
So obviously John Dee himself, if you want to go into a bit about him, obviously he was born around 1527, but there's a lot of myths about his death. People say he got casted out when James came into power. There's rough dates around 1608, 1609 that he actually died. But his job was to create a king of kings, was John Dee's. So people know him as Merlin in the old text. So he was that high up as a magician.
So can I just interrupt there? Because of course they say that the original magician or the original alchemist is Hermes Trismegistus.
Yeah, so he was very into it. John Dee learned all his work, same as John the Baptist. Jesus as well was also learning mysticism, hermeticism. So they all pass on this knowledge, which is why they then created the Rosicrucians. That people don't know, what we see today is the Freemasons.
So was Hermes Trismegistus?
He was
original. Yeah, he was the original alchemist.
Yeah, so all
and everybody's learned from him.
Yeah. So everyone's aim was to create lead alchemy from lead to gold. I'm not thinking that is a physical way of doing lead to gold. I'm thinking it was a spiritual way. Are they turning dead spirits from lead who are asleep to waking them up, which is obviously gold?
That's really interesting.
Yeah, not as the physical thing.
Yeah.
Because we know through history that there's been loads of cases where they've actually been able to turn precious metals, not just lead but mercury as well, into gold.
Yeah.
But where the occult side, because they were very into the esoteric, that's what I'm thinking is how they turn sleepers into walking spirits, into the esoteric, which they are sovereign gold people.
And it'll be interesting to see, obviously, you said that John Dee, the Rosicrucians didn't start off as the dark occult originally. No. It'll be interesting as you go further into the conversation to talk about how things changed to where we are now, if you've got the information.
Yeah. So it changed by a German theologian called Jonathan Valentine Andrea, who wrote a book about the Rosicrucians in the 1799. Yeah, 1799. So this came out 150 years after that guy's death, where they actually inverted everything that the Rosicrucians used to teach, and turned them into like these Satanist worshippers. Like they worship the devil, they worship the demiurge, which they didn't. They were actually very into the Gnostic stuff, worshipping Sophia. They were into enlightenment.
Right.
So yeah, so there's plenty of diagrams and obviously all stuff. So if you look at like the Freemason stuff, that actually parallels off and comes off the backing of Rosicrucian stuff with your two pillars, your masculine and feminine energy. It's very all similar
Okay.
to all that. But yeah, like I say, that got changed in the 18 just before your 18th century, coming out of the 18th century. But again, that was all planned by the Rosicrucians, because their whole plan was to create a new Atlantis. So where we talked about Hermetic, I can't pronounce his name. That was the original. Yeah, that was the original Atlantis, Greek philosopher, alchemist. So these were bringing in the new Atlantis, which was America.
So just educate me there, because I've not looked into Atlantis. I've got a book there but I haven't read it. So what is Atlantis?
Atlantis was the original world where they had all this demiurge technology, where they had the powers, the crystals. There were people who were from obviously the Nordics. They were hybrid, and obviously they were very high up because they were messing with technology way above the powers that actually self-destructed themselves. Obviously, the ones that survived obviously then became, through history, the next lines, which is obviously the Rosicrucians. So obviously your Illuminati, your Freemasons, all your split off, your 322. So
and was John Dee the first one to be using crystals to communicate with the aliens?
From knowledge that I've got, obviously you've got Cleopatra doing it in the Egyptian eras.
Right, okay.
Who was actually Julius Caesar's daughter. Not many people know that about Cleopatra.
No.
But she was very into her esoteric stuff. Hence why she was very into mushrooms, magic mushrooms, which is why the scarabs are very precious symbol to him, because the scarab, which is the dung beetle, creates what? Magic mushrooms.
Right, I
and she was
know
also
that.
she was also into a blue lotus flower, which is another esoteric hallucinogenic product nature that they used to drink it as a wine, which then put them into like the hallucinogenic state so they could communicate with higher beings.
It's so amazing, isn't it, how all of this has been inverted? Don't do mushrooms, don't do this, anything that expands the mind, not to, but go on, sorry.
It's all right. That's they've all done it. They've all contacted through the esoteric, obviously with their advisors and stuff like that. And this is what John Dee, obviously, he was massive into, is communicating with esoteric beings or hyperdimensional aliens to bring in what they want, the construct for what they want for humanity to grow in their way. And like I said, the plan was obviously America to be the new Atlantis, which is obviously now falling, because they've done what they needed to do with America, and now the next Atlantis is a whole new world order, which is looking like they're going back to the east, because that's where it came from originally. So all your Rosicrucian, all the knowledge that they gained was all from the east, from the Moroccans, the Africans, the Arabs, all the mathematics, the astrology. It was all learned from the east, and they moved it to the west, and now it's going from the west. They want it back now to the east. So it's just like
that's why they're destroying the west. That's why they're destroying the west. But there's a bit. I'm missing a link here. So John Dee, the Rosicrucians, wasn't started as a new world order as we are perceiving the new world order to be right now. It's all been inverted. So their new world order is going to be to free the people, to turn lead to gold, to the zombies into not astral beings, but get them back up to Hyperborea, which is obviously I've only just learned that, so I'm just throwing that word out there, you know.
I've been saying I've only just started getting onto. I've always known it's up at Aeon.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it had a name.
the magnetic realm. Which okay.
Yeah, they say electricity is a very negative energy,
and
hence why you've got 5G masts. You've got electricity everywhere, which we don't need because the pyramids have showed from Giza that it was charged by a magnetic field.
Yeah.
Which is using obviously the ether. Tesla again was magnetics, but obviously we're losing a lower energy frequency, which is obviously electricity.
Yeah.
Which is keeping us in that lower aeon. It's like a big web of trap. That's why they've got satellites everywhere to keep us in that spider web of electricity's trap.
Blows my mind. But anyway, so back on track. So
back onto John Dee.
Yeah.
So like I say, it was obviously very big alchemist. He was a teacher and occultist. Obviously an advisor for Queen Elizabeth I. What's interesting was when she was actually becoming made queen, they moved the coronation date to she has a solar eclipse. So it's different to a lunar eclipse. So a solar eclipse is for the queen. A lunar eclipse is for the king, hence corona, hence the virus. It was all to bring in the new king.
Wow.
Because they needed to get rid of the feminine energy because they want to keep the masculine energy keep going. So that's why they moved the coronations. So she was actually coronated on the 15th of January in 1559, which if you check it up, it was a solar eclipse. Obviously, we know from Charles, his coronation been delayed to this date today because it was a lunar eclipse.
Wow.
And not just a lunar eclipse, it's a supermoon lunar eclipse.
So they're trying to bring in the masculine energy. From my own research, and my own limited understanding of this, is the feminine energy is actually the strongest energy.
Strongest energy. Hence, so your upper aeon, as you just talked about in the last video, is the womb. So
of course,
so your woman is the only being on this planet that brings that gap between the esoteric realm into the matter realm. So each woman is a portal. So they give birth, bringing a soul into this realm. So hence why the sacred womb is very powerful. That's why the Catholics and the other churches, they wiped out all your Black Madonnas. They don't talk about Mary Magdalene. They don't talk about Sophia because Sophia is creator. It's the feminine god. It creates. Women create. Men just seed. Hence why you see Egyptians with the obelisk. It's to stand as a penis erected. So they want to keep that masculine war animalistic energy keep going around, and not that nurturing energy.
Which will tie in with the effed up idea of incubator babies. Basically, so if a baby is created in an incubator, it's not going to have a soul. So therefore, that severs that connection with woman bringing soul in through the womb, being that portal.
So they have. So their next aim is to completely wipe out the feminine, which is obviously what they're doing now with transgenders. People have sex changes, mutilating their bodies, so they can no longer do this. They have full control. It's the only thing they don't have control on is the portals coming in. They've got control of the portals going out, where they keep us trapped into this reincarnation, but they don't have any control. Which they don't have any control of souls coming in. Hence why outer hyperdimensional beings and what people call light seeds or light beings are coming in, and floods trying to change everything. They need to put a big barricade to stop that happening, so they can completely control this realm for the rest of existence, kind of thing.
Or until 2176, if you go by the the end to go by that. But right, okay, sorry to interrupt. I probably will carry on into
it's fine. Yeah. So obviously Queen Elizabeth was to bring in the next New World Order, but what people didn't realise is she couldn't give birth. And I didn't learn this until my partner did um, regression, past life regression hypnosis. So one of her past lives, she was Mary Dean, Mary Queen of Scots.
Wow.
Which is funny because before she had a past life regression, we actually went to Lothian to visit the palace. We stayed up there for the whole weekend, and she just said, "This place is beautiful. I feel like home." And then it was about 4 months after she had this past life regression, and she never talked to me about obviously what the person said and the recording and everything. And she described herself to the T. She had ginger hair, but what threw me is she said she had two sons. So all the history books tell us that she only had one, which was King James, which Queen Elizabeth took off her and locked her away in a tower for 19 years, which my missus talks about. She was locked away for 19 years for something that she never did. And she was forced to
Wow.
marry at 16 to a French king who mistreated her and stuff. And he wanted a son. But what the history books don't tell you is that she gave birth to two sons, not just James, who was the youngest. She had a first son called Francis, which was Francis Bacon.
Mm. Wow.
So
So
because
Francis
they
Bacon
knew,
was Mary Queen of Scots. Isn't again? I'm not really good in my
yeah,
history like this, but was Mary Queen of Scots the
the
one who's
one that got
beheaded?
beheaded, yeah. And my missus again told us about the beheading that it failed the first two times. It took three attempts for her
Oh
head to be
my
chopped off.
God!
And she remembered the whole thing, the pain. And she remembers saying to her cousin, "Why are you doing this to me? I've done nothing. You've took my sons. What more do you want?" Because they wanted an heir. And it was Queen Elizabeth and John Dee's plan was to take an heir that no one knew about, which was obviously Francis Bacon. So they knew that James was going to be the heir for the throne of England or the
Yeah.
United Kingdom, but Francis Bacon was going to be the heir of the New Atlantis. He was going to be the
Wow.
creator of the Freemasons. So he actually went away. If you that's when you look into Francis Bacon, he actually went away and did exactly the same things as John Dee. So John Dee was his advisor, not Queen Elizabeth's. He was training him up in the arts of um, alchemy, again, astrology, uh, obviously mysticism, again, assassination, spying. So Francis Bacon was trained up in all this knowledge. And if people look into his books, he literally wrote what we have today's law is all written by Francis Bacon. He was
Yeah.
also William Shakespeare, so
Yeah.
he changed the language from Latin into English. Um, he also brought in, obviously, wrote books about the New Atlantis, which is America, and he also created the new secret society, which was the Freemasons.
And gematria
Gematria, yeah, was all
created
done
that as
by
well. Yeah.
Francis Bacon.
And he did
So he
all
was a
that by using
very,
alchemy and astrology.
yeah,
And
he was.
do you think he was being fed by aliens to have that level of intelligence? I mean,
Well, he was sent away. He was like on a, what would you call a knowledge of pilgrim knowledge? He was sent away to all these schools from a very young age to learn the arts of all these different techniques, exactly the
where
same as John Dee.
where does this knowledge come from? I mean, why have you got us mere mortals? I mean, I asked that question to you on Telegram,
Yeah,
who is the current John Dee or the current Francis Bacon? Because we don't seem to have alchemists in this era, do we? Or we
no,
certainly, like
we,
your prophets example, like Nostradamus. I mean,
yeah.
okay, he was probably a Freemason, and Mother Shipton. We don't hear about all these things in this.
I think Mother Yaga in Russia is the last one.
Right,
The
okay.
blind mother, the blind mother. Mother Yaga. She's got a lot of prophecies as well. But the alchemy side, obviously they changed. They don't like the word alchemy. They call it chemistry. So it's
Ah,
now who is the top people
chemist.
in chemistry.
Okay.
So to be the top people, you've obviously got people who own the chemistry industry, which is obviously a pharmaceutical, which is
Yeah. Perfect.
yeah. So they just changed the word from alchemy to chemistry. but they don't
and
do
science
all. They keep it science.
Yeah, science
Yeah,
is a new concept as well. I can't remember
yeah,
exactly what I read, but I read that science is I did read that actually. Science is the new alchemy.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So go
yeah.
on.
So obviously they split it up. So you got your biology, chemistry, and
Yeah.
physics, where instead the alchemists would have learned all three of them things.
And you obviously need to, in order to get the desired effect, you have to use them in tandem.
Yeah, and
Whereas
obviously
we're studying them separately, aren't we?
yeah, we're only just starting this. Obviously, John Hopkins is like a big place where they're just starting now to talk about the esoteric stuff, which they've known about for thousands of years.
Mm.
So they're making out like it's a new found discovery, but they've known about these things way beyond time. Obviously, again, who's controlling them? Who's letting the information? Obviously, if you look at who owns all the science colleges and universities, it's all Rothschilds.
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
So it's again who passed on the knowledge to them. So they're either talking to hyperdimensional beings that are passing this knowledge on, or there's something here already that's hidden, which is what they call the secret hand, which lurks in the shadows. So that there is a controller in this aeon, obviously working behind the scenes, which is obviously doing the jobs for the demiurge to keep it in control. Before Sophia returns, which is the feminine. She's got to fix her mistakes, what she's created, which
Because
is
we are
what they knew.
I had a reading from Logan of Decode Reality, and he was talking about we're in the masculine. I can't remember it,
Yeah, we're in the masculine energy.
We're in the masculine energy now, and that's
Yeah,
where. And he was saying that's where all the transgenders coming in, because it's a crossover before we go to the
yeah,
feminine, which is what you've just said regarding
yeah,
Sophia. But they're
yeah,
trying to block that feminine energy. Is that right? They don't want
yeah,
it to happen. Hence the
yeah,
transhumanism.
yeah. So when people look at Sophia, you always see Sophia drawing is her head is a sun.
Mm,
So again, what Bill Gates is trying to do is block out the sun, which
yeah,
the sun creates life. Without the sun, nothing would exist. Plants can't grow. Nothing organic can
yeah.
grow. Um, and again, it comes back to your phoenix phenomenon, the sun being reborn, the hope of prophecy. Again, the sun being reborn. We're running out of time, aren't we? We'll have to
Yeah,
come
we've
back on
got
in a
we've
minute.
got 10 minutes left.
Oh, it's just
Yeah,
come up on mine. Which is all about the reborn of the sun, which is the recycle. So, like I said, the Rosicrucians believe that the sun was Sophia, hence why it's all about light. And
yeah,
again, Illuminati means illuminate. Um, Obviously, people again, like you said about the invertedness, illuminate is this realm. We are living in the illumination realm.
yeah.
For us to get our whole circle again, we have to embrace the darkness, the shadow, the dark matter.
And it's actually really interesting because I watched a video, and again, I know I'm digressing a little bit, but it kind of connects. And I wish I'd mentioned it on last night's video, but I'd forgotten. It was an astrologer called Ona Wone, and they were just playing with the idea of with this the whole soul trap business
Yeah,
that's been going around. And I know you believe it is a soul trap.
yeah,
I'm beginning to come to that realization, I suppose. And I know. And she said, instead of going to the light, because when we're born, where do we go? We go to the light. We come out of a dark place. So she said maybe we should be going down into the darkness, which of course coincided with that video that I did yesterday with embracing black matter. So as we are now being light, we've just been and again it's another inversion. We've been associating that with being love and light and ascending.
Hence the rise of the new age.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas actually light is low vibrational energy.
Yeah. If people look at Lucifer, he was the what? He was the light bearer.
Yeah.
So again, he's one of the seven sins. Light becomes, is it pride? So Lucifer singles the seven sin of pride. Obviously, Satan is anger. But people
I don't know that.
associate Lucifer, yeah. So people associate Lucifer and Satan as one, but it's not.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
two different people. But yeah, it's again they've inverted everything to
Hmm.
confuse us.
Yeah.
So when we pray to the light and stuff like that, we're actually praying to the
They hear in
demiurge.
your low vibrational
Yeah,
eon is the word, isn't it? Eon.
yeah, yeah. So I'm just waiting to find out more information about the Black Sun because that's thrown me completely off.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was on my own theory, but if we
Yeah,
go down to the inversion and where that guy was saying where the black sun was, and if you're wondering what we're talking about, guys, go and watch my not the video I did this morning, but the video I did yesterday. Regarding the black sun, we know that they worship the black sun. But again, they've inverted it because it's associated with terror and things like that. And I say that like because it's gone on YouTube. But if they're if the black sun exists in Hyperborea, which is where our consciousness exists, then that's where we should be aiming to. And of course, if you use the black sun as a swastika. And what did you say today? The Hopi.
yeah. The Hopi tribe was the last people recorded on history to actually transcend. Um, and if you listen to the Hopi chiefs and everything, they say that a lot of them came back to help humanity push forward.
But they worshipped the
Obviously,
swastika, didn't they?
yeah, they have it all over. Again, they wear the blue and the red, which is
Yeah,
all your superheroes, your
yeah,
Spider-Man, your Supermans. It's all to do with magnetism. They're showing it in your face that we need to have both the male and the feminine energy to
yeah.
be joined together. So they actually understand all that. And
It's
people think these
fascinating.
are a native and they're not civilized people and they're barbaric and the
Yeah.
tribal, they don't have a clue, but yet these people are way more advanced than anybody else.
Well, they live
Same
in
with
nature. Yeah,
Egyptians. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Egyptians again wear blue, red all the time. It
Hey,
was
I've got blue and red on today.
not yellow and blue like everybody else.
Well,
Today at
no,
coronation.
I swear to God, I went to the field and the roads were dead, and I was like, thank God for all the people who've been being energy harvested today because the roads are really quiet. It was great. But anyway, let's get back. We've got 5 minutes left, so let's see what we can squeeze in 5 minutes, and then we'll come back. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll go back to John Dee. So again, people don't realise he had one, two, three, four, five, six, 8 children. And again, this brings you coming back to King Arthur. People hear about the story of King Arthur. One of his actual sons was Arthur, was John Dee's.
Right.
Which is obviously brings all the mysticism. It's all again a throw off. People link King Arthur with Jesus, Christ consciousness. It's just that these people were actually just do it into the esoteric stuff. So, like, because we're now going into the esoteric stuff ourselves, we call mysticisms or
Yeah.
Gnostics, not the ways that people throw around as truthers or light bearers or light seers. We're Gnostics.
Yeah,
We're
you don't
learning
want to
to
be calling
know.
yourself a light bearer or a light seer because that's what they want.
Exactly, it's all inverted into the
Yeah,
programming, what the society. So obviously, John Dee, like I said, was very into his teachings, and obviously his main goal was to bring in the new King of Kings, which is obviously Francis Bacon, which we'll go into when we come back on.
yeah.
Because like I say Francis Bacon is probably the most interesting book from both the Rosicrucians and the Freemasons. Obviously, what we see today, because everything that he brought in and did is where I've lived through, you've lived through, and obviously we're now coming out of Francis Bacon's ideology and his
Wow.
part of the plan of the New World Order. We're going into the next phase. So for the last, was it 300 years, has all been part of Francis Bacon's big whole plan, completely changing books, history, languages, bringing in a reset without any castrosity.
So Francis Bacon has a lot to answer for then, basically.
Oh, massive. Yeah. even with Shakespeare, like people don't realize Shakespeare on all his pictures, he has a mask to show you
Yeah.
in your face that it's not who you think it is.
God. People have, well, they don't have any idea, do they? They don't have any idea of the deception that we have been living through for
Oh
so
no,
long, from birth to where we are now, the deception.
no,
Right, well, let's stop it now then.
yeah,
And then we'll come back in. Yeah?
yeah,
Yeah, bro. And part two of the bite-sized Gnostics. I'm trying to take off Alpha-Demic here. Part two of the bite-sized Gnostics podcast. We're here with Dan Phillips. And we're now going to start talking about Francis Bacon, aka Shakespeare, aka Francis Bacon. So
yeah. So again, he selected his name as William Shakespeare because I am, the I am, and Shakespeare is spear shaker.
Okay, and there's
Reverse
something
round.
to do with the V's as well, isn't there? And again, I watched one of those videos that you sent me, but it was all gematria based, and I couldn't make sense of it. But where he got the William from, that because it's actually Ilium, isn't it?
Ilium,
Put the two V's, which was significant to Francis Bacon's name, because Francis Bacon going through all the gematria had something to do with these Roman numerals anyway. So anyway, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, all right. Right, so going back to obviously Francis Bacon, and obviously he would be in the actual heir to the throne of the UK, and obviously he wasn't. It was given to his brother King James. Again, King James, if people look into his history, was a gay. So he's very into his men, very into his kids. Didn't have any IQ. It was thick between the ears. So again, people were telling him how to run the country. He didn't write the Bible. It was actually wrote by Francis Bacon. So King James's version of the Bible was actually Francis Bacon's version of the Bible.
Right.
So he actually changed everything, wiped out the Catholics, which was then brought in. Obviously people know about Guy Fawkes. These are the original Catholics that rebelled, who asked the Pope to come in, obviously to stop what they was doing, because they were slaughtering the original Catholics. They were changing the beliefs. They were doing, obviously it comes again around your witch hangings. It's the same period where they completely killed anyone that was into mysticism, because they were going to be the ones who kept all these secrets, which was then going to create the secret societies and the Freemasons.
Right, let me just recap for my mind. John Dee wanted to create an Atlantis, which was to free people, whereas Francis Bacon
had other ideas.
Right. Okay, got you. So anything that John Dee had taught, i.e., let's say to witches about esotericism, Francis Bacon came in and said, not a chance.
No.
And
he wanted full power.
Yeah, okay. Under the guise of King James.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under the disguise of King James and obviously William Shakespeare, because obviously the true language was obviously Latin.
Yeah.
Which was spoken in this country, and obviously he brought in, I think English is a mixture of German, Spanish. I can't remember what the other one were. It was three languages, English, and it was to confuse everyone. Which obviously you see now we very confused English literature. They call it the devil's tongue.
Yeah.
The English language, because we read the wrong way around. We read left to right when we should be reading right to left. We're meant to read up to down, not down, up.
Okay.
Up to down. So everything's been completely 180 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah.
With all his teachings, and like I say, he brought in all your laws, which again was another rebellion, which was obviously later on in life, which is obviously your Robin Hood, your Robin of Locksley, what they did with the Crusades. But that was like another thing, how they managed to get the land off the people. The first aim was to crush the religion first, get rid of anyone that worshipped the feminine god. So they did a massive pillage, wiped out the Cathars in France, and obviously the next one was obviously the Catholics, because they the real Catholics worshipped the mother. She was higher up than Jesus. It was
So, and you it's probably another inversion. Why is the Catholic Church so prominent now then? If
the
they wiped
the
out,
Pope.
yeah.
So they were already. This is what Francis Bacon. He spent a lot of time at the Vatican, so he was already inside the new Pope who came in at the time. He was already inside his head about changing the will to the new order, which was getting rid of anything to do with evil. They wanted evil to not like pretend that evil didn't exist, which is what they say the devil's trick is to pretend that is not real. So if they could stop people thinking things, then they could have more control,
Right.
and control their own ways of fear, because they realize fear is what controls mass people.
Yeah.
And people were starting to lose that fear of demons and so forth, because they were coming away from the esoteric. So they had to implement new structures to cause the new fear of violence and murders and
Who were coming away from the esoteric?
the obviously civilizations. They were
Right.
moving off from it because it was like they say paganism. They didn't want people to follow the pagan rules anymore. That was like the first wipe. So when they got rid of all the Celts in this country, the Gaelics, the Vikings, all the pagan beliefs, then bring in the church, and then again they changed the whole Bible. They got rid of parts of the Bible which was very interesting, like the Gospel of Thomas, which is all talking about Jesus being a human person. He went with John the Baptist to go to these schools and learn about esoteric, and and Jesus really was an alchemist. Like I say, he was turning people from asleep, he was waking them up.
So Jesus was an actual man, because again, there's speculation out there that it wasn't actually. It wasn't. It's just Christ consciousness that we refer to when we talk about Christ.
When they talk about consciousness, everyone's got that, because he was a person who got that consciousness, the high consciousness. So he realized that, hang on a minute, all his teachings are esoteric, same as John the Baptist, that instead of using it for the bad, they were using it for the good. They started to wake people up, started turning, obviously, wine into water, which shows that he was an alchemist.
But if these people already lived in this esoteric freedom, shall we say, where the access to the knowledge was freely given and it's not hidden like it is now, why did they have to wake people up? Why wasn't it a given? Why weren't people already liberated in the mind?
Because people were getting too much into the matter. They were stopped feeding the spirit. They were getting greedy.
Right, yeah.
Which is they were just falling. So when the whole Jesus era was them to try and wake them up, but it weren't successful as it was. So it wasn't a way. So you got that battle then, because people obviously follow the right path, which is obviously to believe in religion, faith, hope, and the goodness. And then you've got that duality. So we've lived in that duality now since the Jesus eras, where before it was just that one barbaric, animalistic, kill or be killed energy. We then got some kind of fraction that was fighting against it, where now it's going, or we're going to go that way, where the Christ consciousness rays, or we're going to go that way, or we're going to split, which is what you've talked about. See people, two worlds, two earths, two realms. People are going to go back up to Hyperborea. People are going to fall further down into this transhumanism.
Just while we're on that, how do you envisage the two worlds? So those that ascend to Hyperborea, are we not going to be, I say we because none of us can guarantee where we're going to be, but those that ascend to Hyperborea, then they won't longer be, they won't be matter. Is that right? Or
yeah, the bodies stay.
The bodies
they'll be
stay.
dead.
Right, yeah.
Right. That's why I presumed it. That's why I think the great solar flash, the solar flare, is what, when people say it's going to destroy the world and it's the Phoenix event, but the people who survive this next catastrophe are going to be the ones that are going to be stuck in this realm. The ones
Right.
that don't survive are going to be the ones that are moving on up, because we're not this. We
Mm.
are spirits trapped in a soul, trapped in matter.
Yeah, I still have again, it's my ego talking, but I still have well, it depends how bad life was to get in a cataclysm, shall we say, but I still have this natural clinging on to this life because I actually enjoy this life as much as the grottiness that's out there. I still have this clinging on to this body, if you like.
That's because, yeah, it's because, like I say, memories become completely white. When we came here, we don't remember anything. We don't remember who we are, what we are, where we've come from. It's like a clean slate, and then
Yeah.
obviously that's as soon as we get into this lower realm, we're then brainwashed into believing everything through our five senses. Everything's real just through five senses.
So why is it there is this this need for survival, because like we've talked about, of course, we've both been down
Yeah,
Archaics' route, and it's all about starting communities to grow our
yeah,
own food and to survive whatever may come and get to the highest point of the land, because the whole of the UK potentially will be underwater apart from the highest points. If we are coming from and I know I'm going a bit off track here, but
yeah.
it's kind of led into it. If we are wanting to ascend and go to Hyboria, why, and those of us that are aware of this, why do we still feel the need to try to want to survive whatever may come, like a solar flare or,
Yeah, that's down to, I think, down to ego. Like, I think Tom draws a nice sketch of it, which you've got two different egos. You've got the spirit ego, and then you got the ego matter. So it depends which ego we're feeding. So
Okay.
because we're not, if we're feeding into the matter that we believe everything with our five senses, sight, smell, taste, feel, touch, etc., we're not using our full potential, which is obviously the spirit. Um, so again, the spirit, the way I'm in two different things, because like you, why are we here in the first place? To me, is we're people who are in touch with the spirit are very organic. We're not into, so we're not into the machinery, the technology side. We're into nature, animals, creating
Yeah.
organic life instead of destroying it, which is all technology, metal. It's like I say, it's very dull. It's dark.
It's dead.
Even it's dead. Yeah, when you look at it, it's nothing. Like you see
Yeah.
buildings today, it's very grey. It's dull.
Yeah.
Like big metal buildings, they just look horrible. Where you see trees, you see the nature, how it creates the patterns, its dynamics, its benefits. So again, when you look at when I just started looking into Hyperborea, what the Russians have painted and stuff, it's very elvish. And if you look at elves, they don't sleep, they live for thousands of years, they're very pale, very like Nordic looking, but they're very in touch with nature. Or else they're very organic, they're very peaceful. They're not into wars or anything like that. Which when you look at Hyperborea paintings, it brings in like that Lord of the Rings feel. That that's the elven world,
Mystical.
and obviously, yeah, and we're
Magical.
obviously, yeah, in the Middle Earth.
Yeah.
And again, J.K. Tolkien went to an esoteric school, which was just down the road from me, Stonyhurst College.
Do you mean
So
rolling?
no, J.K. Tolkien, who wrote the Lord of the Rings books.
Oh, I was thinking of Harry Potter. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
thinking of
It's the
J.K.
same. Yeah,
Rowling.
it's the same school. So where
Yeah.
they did the filming of Harry Potter, it's the same school where J.K. Tolkien went to, which is an esoteric Jesuit school. So they obviously
I
teach
want to go to those
astrology.
schools. How do we get into those schools?
13 grand a term.
A
That's how
term?
you get it.
Ah,
Yeah.
peanuts, peanuts.
Yeah.
So you actually need the material. What the irony of it, you actually need the material realm in order to go and to learn the mystical, the magical,
that's how they've done it nowadays. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they're selected. So it's how they keep the families going.
Mm,
So they know that because the next people who learn all this stuff will make money in the
mm,
material world, and that's how they have power because they know astrology. They know how to control their emotions. They know how to control people. They know how to control matter. And like I say, they learn it all. It's just passed on, passed on, passed on
yeah.
through families. And we don't, us peasants don't get a look in because we're the sheep.
So I imagine myself one of those, like, like when the cataclysm comes, I'm just like that. Take me. I want to go to Hyperborea. like them on the Titanic. Just take me. I'll be honest. I mean, like I've joked about this before. I think my like it's my animals. I'm worrying more about my animals than anything else than I do. But anyway, right back to. I'm sorry, Dan. I know I
You're all
digress.
right. It's all right.
Back to Francis Bacon.
All right. So obviously, Francis Bacon, some of the stuff that he was actually married to his first wife was called Alice Barnum.
I thought it was Alice Bailey then.
But again, people say he was attracted to men. So it was all a hide. Like he wasn't into his women. It was to hide his actual thing. Because obviously he was into dark occultism,
Yeah.
not just the. So I don't know where his change came. That he went from obviously John Dee's teaching. This is probably why he expelled John Dee not long after King James came in power. Obviously John Dee got disbanded, got sent back to Wales. But this is where Francis Bacon started to change things and think he was God. Hence why the G, what the Freemasons have in the middle of their seat, people believe that that's to symbolise Francis Bacon, not God as the source, as it's the architect.
And
He's
it's
designing the new. He's the 3D demiurge. That's how he
okay.
looks at himself. He
Which
looks
is
at
really
himself as creating this new world as his matter, his how he imagines the world to be.
it's interesting because from I was of the assumption that the dark occults started with the likes of Aleister Crowley and Alice Bailey.
Yeah.
Alice Bailey was around the 1800s, and what's her name, Blavatsky.
Yeah.
They were the 1800s, weren't they? So
Yeah.
actually, I'll take back what I just said about Aleister Crowley.
Yeah. Francis Bacon was just your 17th century, 1600s.
Oh,
So
right.
he's before
Right.
then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Go
Because
on.
I think he wrote the book, The New Atlantis was in 1627, which is literally describing what we see today, the New World Order of America.
Wow.
And even has it put that it will fall just like the old Atlantis, and this will bring in complete the New World Order. One world religion, one world currency, one person in power. So is this lineage from Francis Bacon, or I don't know who his successor was after him. Which is because obviously he's passed on his knowledge for a new successor for this new, because everything else is planned to the T. Like I say, all your laws, your magistrates, it's all created. Magistrate, the name magistrate is all created from Francis Bacon. Your canons, everything.
Who was this man? Was he like
Yeah.
an alien himself to have the mind? I struggle to read a book these days.
Yeah, I think there's over 2,500 books he's actually wrote.
Wow.
To bring and he literally everything you see today, sociology, like I say, law, everything was created by Francis Bacon. Some scholars believe that he had people writing books for him. He was just talking, and he had all these scholars writing information. Or some people believe that he was some supreme being that had all this knowledge and time that he could control time and space. That's what he was doing. He could. So that's what some scholars believe, that he was actually controlling time and space, freezing time, getting all this information out, then releasing it. He could control stop time to learn it all.
Well, yeah, that's very plausible given what we've learned regarding how malleable this realm
Yeah.
is.
Well, they
You know?
say they actually do say he had this philosopher's stone that could actually manipulate time and space.
And the
From what I'm reading
Philosopher's
in Tom's
Stone,
book.
yeah, I think I need to go back to the beginning with Tom's book, even though I've only about 30 pages in so far.
Yeah,
But
from what
yeah,
I've read from Tom's book, Philosopher's Stone was a lower tech demiurge technology, which could control time and space. And some scholars believe that Francis Bacon had the Philosopher's Stone, which would
mm,
explain how he got all these books and information in such a short period. Because I don't think he even lived that long, because he died of pneumonia in 1626. So to bring out 2,000 books in such a
yeah,
short period um, is quite remarkable. It's like he
especially
came here, did his job, and then gone.
yeah, and this is why it's plausible that he was being spoken to by aliens. If we think that that's what um, Hitler was being communicated with by the Nordics, then it's not
Yeah,
that far out to think that John Dee was getting this information
yeah,
from another species, shall we say, which
yeah.
was
So
also
that's
go on.
they don't really talk. Like they say, they don't really mention anything about who Bacon was talking to in the esoteric realms. Like I said, with John Dee, they say he was Uriel who was communicating with, which is a benevolent being.
Mm,
So there's nothing to say that Francis Bacon wasn't tricked by a negative being, promised all these things, hence why he died at such a young age, gained all this knowledge at the same time, brought in their plan, and then taken out quite quick because he weren't that old. What was he? 26. So you know how old he were. He was only in his 50s.
right. Quite old for that era, though, isn't it? Didn't they used to pop off in the 30s?
Oh no, 65 he was.
So that's old for that era. I would have thought 1700s,
Um,
1600s.
when you look at the rest of them, they were living around the hundreds. I think John Dee was in his late 80s.
Was he?
Yeah, they weren't young. But that's why I think that maybe he actually sold his soul to get this knowledge.
Mm,
Didn't realize the consequences of it, because it weren't that long after he obviously came into position of power and started the ball rolling for Atlantis that he actually died. And obviously, like I said, there's different rumors. People say he was assassinated by suffocating. Some people say he died of pneumonia. There's a lot of even in there's a Francis Bacon Society which literally talk about all this, about him being William Shakespeare, and um, there's a massive stuff in, like I said, the Gray's Inn at London South Square has got a statue of Francis Bacon. A lot of Cambridge, Oxford have got statues of him.
I wonder,
Every single lodge in Freemasons got statues of him.
I wonder who he reincarnated because I bet he's come back.
Yeah, well, his fascination for power was, which is funny because he put the Rosicrucian house in America when he created the New Atlantis. It's in California, which has now become obviously LA and Hollywood. So he put Hollywood in power again,
Wow.
the movies. So
Yeah,
even all
yeah,
that's linked to Francis Bacon, like everything was strategic what he was doing. So obviously, for one man to have all this knowledge and the placement of everything,
yeah,
picking California to create his New Atlantis, Pennsylvania is where we wanted the landing. That's where he picked the actual landing for the invasion, which was Pennsylvania. Washington was always his idea for a capital. And obviously, we all know about Washington, how it's
yeah.
all Freemason, all the structure of the city. It's all got the Star of David and etc.
Yeah,
So
it's one big, if you look at it from an aerial view, it's one big symbolic.
yeah,
You know, in
yeah,
fact, even
pentagram.
pentagram, yeah, the roads
Yeah,
around it, aren't they? I mean,
yeah,
come on, that's got to be alien. It's got to be.
Yeah, with the penis in the middle, the big obelisk.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Which is again funny because I did it myself without knowing all this. I did a thing called Run for the Wall. So every year, veterans from America, UK, all go through every state in America to Washington DC. They call it Run for the Wall, and they collect each other as they go through the states, and they all go to the obelisk at the end. So it's literally like a big, um, even though they're thinking it's like celebrate the veterans that died for the country and everything. It's a big worshipping thing because they're worshipping the obelisk, the penis, the
Wow.
masculine energy.
Oh,
But
they
you
played a
don't.
number on us, haven't they?
Oh, I've had my numbers played on me plenty.
We all have. We all have. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But anyway,
'Cause I did that event for my 30th birthday.
but we're not to know,
And
are we? We're not to know.
no,
How,
no,
everything that, going to concerts. I was talking to a friend the other day, like going out drinking spirits, because when
yeah,
we're drunk, we allow demon
energies, yeah,
energies into us, and we're all going out drinking, we're dancing on tables, we're actually dancing to the music that they've created, which is, brainwashing
well, the
and
name
harvesting.
alcohol is the name of a demon.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh man.
yeah, and it's the actual name of a demon.
No wonder us
I think it's
drinks. Go
yeah, I
on.
think it's sodomy,
No
the demon of
wonder.
sodomy, and that's what do people do when they're drunk? They do things that they regret the next day, like
Yeah,
fighting, arguing,
yeah,
um, having sex with random partners that they've got no
yeah.
connection with, getting naked and stuff. It's literally, and then they wake up next day like, what have I done? And they don't even realize it.
And all these things that we've done through innocence and fun and enjoyment, I mean, I remember someone asking me, I mean, I stopped drinking a lot, quite a few years back now. And someone asked me, well, what do you do for fun? And I said, well, describe fun. Is
Yeah,
fun really going out getting sloshed and then not remembering what you've done the next day? Or is fun reading a book? Describe fun. But we've been indoctrinated to believe that fun is going out partying and making asses out of ourselves.
yeah,
Anyway, again, I digress. But it's this conversation has led on to highlighted how we have been fooled. We are the fools, aren't we? We're being
yeah,
laughed at.
yeah.
We're performing these rituals on a regular daily basis for some of us, and we're just pawns on a chessboard, aren't we? Being played all the
Yeah.
time.
Well, you even look at schools and society today, they really push William Shakespeare down people's
Yeah,
necks. And I've never associated William Shakespeare. When I
I
was at school,
haven't.
I hated it. I
Yeah,
couldn't
I
stand Macbeth. And even look at his books. We had to study The Merchant of Venice, which is all about transgender. It's about a guy having a sex change. And like they say, even theatre, you've got men
yeah,
playing women
yeah.
and women playing men.
And
It's like
interesting.
literally in your face.
This might be
And
not
it's
connected.
all from Shakespeare. It all comes off Shakespeare, all that theatre. That why are we having men playing women and women playing men? It's all that indoctrination.
And also the men used to wear high heels, didn't they? But was that because they were short?
Um, I'm not too sure about the high heels. I know boys, especially in the Victorian age, was they used to make them wear dresses, white dresses, as in virgins, and boys were a big thing for prostitution in the 1800s, Victorian ages. It was a massive thing. It's the same with don't really want to talk about it on here, but because it might get kicked off about Muslims, Afghan, like they're really into the young
Mm,
boys, and it's not for pleasure; it's for dominance.
mm. Yeah, let's not
It's
talk about
like
this.
if yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's same in
yeah.
prisons again. People in prison have male thingy because it's to show dominance over another male, that masculine energy that they can
Mm.
outdo the other masculine energy, become the alpha. It's that, like I said, masculine is very war, animalistic, barbaric energy, which is needed at times to protect yourself. But at the same time, we need to have that balance, that nurturing,
Yeah.
that feminine energy.
And Mark Passio talks about that a lot, is the balance of the feminine and the masculine. So the feminine, I think, is the right brain, isn't it? Which is all your new age, love and light.
Yeah.
And then your feminine is, sorry, your masculine is the left brain, which is all logic and anger and aggression.
Yeah, your red is your masculine and your blue is your feminine.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again,
Anyway,
which is down to your elements again, like I said to you, water is the feminine, fire is the masculine, which then brings up your Star of David. It's combining the two elements, which is again all down to alchemy. They knew all this, they all know the secrets and we don't.
yeah,
To
yeah.
be complete, you need to have the star, which is again symbolism to mankind. We say we've fallen from the stars, hence
But
why they call them superstars in Hollywood.
yeah, but they've also
And
inverted the Star of David, haven't they? Is that right? Because they've made it. Is that the same? No, or is that the Pentagon that's been
it's the
inverted?
Pentagon. It's
Pentagon.
inverted to Satan, yeah, which gives you the two horns.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's hope this one transfers, because we've talked about some pretty hairy stuff here. Zoom might go, you're not keeping this recording. Let's hope. But anyway, let's go back. We've got 5 minutes left. After this one, I'm going to go and feed the cat. That's why he's jumping on my knee, because he wants
Yeah,
to feed in. But do you want to come back in? Have you still got loads to talk about?
No, because we can go into what we said last time into the next bit.
Yeah, yeah, because we've
We
digressed a little bit. Go on.
yeah. It's a yeah, because obviously we know about obviously the Freemasons. I think you've done videos on Freemasons, haven't you already?
Not in depth,
No.
but I've touched on because I haven't gone in depth with any of this really. I've kind of like just touched on stuff.
We can leave it there with obviously the Francis Bacon stuff because like people can look into it now about who he was. There's plenty of stuff online, like say he created science, which again, I think he was the one actually. Looking at this, he was the person who created the Royal Society of Science, so he changed the word from alchemy to science.
So he is the original.
Big player.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
original. What's the word I'm looking for? The deceiver.
Yeah.
He's the original deceiver. I would love to
Yeah.
know who's taken his place in today's world.
I think that goes. I think it's more towards the Rothschilds, that isn't it? I
Yeah,
think the
but
Rothschilds because they were originally started as selling your dodgy potions, weren't they? That placebo effect. That's how they started the Rothschilds, and then all of a sudden they got into banking.
Yeah.
They went from selling your fake medicines like you see on Pete's the Dragon Disney film. That were they were dodgy people selling poison to people, thinking that they're going to be cured, these miracle cures, and moving on from town to town. That's how they started the Rothschilds. But then again, it's who's behind them? Who's the alchemist? They're not alchemists.
No, that's what I mean. I don't see them as alchemists, so exactly
No.
who's behind them. I just see them as the banksters who are doing
That's what.
the financial
Yeah, it was Francis Bacon that I lost. He was the last person that I know is the big changer,
right.
and I can't see who is from all the research I've done. I can't see who he passed it on to. Obviously, we found out that he was learnt by John Dee. John Dee learned from such and such a body, which is obviously the first Rosicrucian, which
Do you
is
think it's the skull and bones that have taken on Francis Bacon?
Who's in charge of the Skull of Bones, or
Oh, was he? Right.
no?
Okay.
I said who's in charge of Skull. Like the Skull and Bones are part of the Freemasons,
Yeah.
same as the Illuminati are a part of. So again, he split all these groups to keep the real knowledge hidden from their groups. So they've all been divided. So he split the Rosicrucian into these different secret societies because each one will have a bit of truth. They're not getting the full spectrum.
Yeah.
So he's created a divide in the secret societies. So it's again, who's the one that's in charge of all of them?
Yeah. Interesting question. Jan might know. He might have looked into it.
He's reading the Bible of Gita. She's quite old. It's like the Egyptians. The Egyptians had it all locked together. They then passed onto the Rosicrucians. So if you look at like the Rosicrucians buildings, they're very Egyptian buildings. So it's been passed on to them from obviously Sumerians, but then it's been divided and lost from that Francis Bacon era.
I'm going to stop in case we lose it. I'll speak to you in a minute. Okay, bye.